the love bombing, the devaluation, the discard. It's just emotional. It's really neurological. Your brain has been chemically rewired. You don't miss them. You miss who you thought they were. You're grieving a character, the most painful fantasy. It's not even like a reunion with this person. It's the apology. That's not a fantasy about love. For me, it's a fantasy about justice. Hey, welcome back. I am Bridget Bennett, the host of Badass Breakthrough. And today we are going somewhere uncomfortable for many, including myself. We're talking about the fantasy, right? The one where they apologize, the one where they change, the one where you replay the relationship and wonder, what if you had just done something different? Maybe it wasn't all bad. I just did a live training inside my community, the collective, and the response overall about this topic is quite wild all over socials because nobody really talks about this part, right? So I'm bringing it straight to you today. If you have ever caught yourself daydreaming about someone who hurt you, someone who showed you exactly who they were, this episode is for you. Stay with me. All right. So here's the first thing I need you to hear from me. You are not weak. You are definitely not crazy. Your brain has been chemically rewired. The cycle that you live through, the love bombing, the devaluation, the discard, it's just emotional, right? It's really neurological. So your brain learns to crave the highs the same way it craves anything addictive. That intermittent reinforcement that we got in the relationship, the hot, cold, the high highs, low lows, the good and the terrible, it created a dopamine loop in our brain. And dopamine doesn't care if something is good for you, it just wants that hit. Here's where it all really gets to me because your brain literally cannot tell the difference between fantasizing about them, your ex, maybe a parent that was abusive, mistreated you, and them actually being there, right? So the brain cannot differentiate. The comfort response is the same, right? So your nervous system is self medicating with a person who hurt you over and over and over again. In your own mind, this is what's happening. And oxytocin, that bonding hormone that doesn't just switch off because they were awful, your body is still chemically attached. It's not a character flaw in you, I promise. It is biological, right? This is why we can sometimes still be fantasizing about an abusive person in our life. Maybe it's an ex-partner, parent, and it's really costing you in the end. Let me tell you what I've seen. In my own life and my clients' lives, we have said at one point or another, we miss them, or maybe they are really good. Maybe they're a great parent. I think they're a good father after all. For me, even with my own father, right? I was like, well, I just told my therapist. It wasn't all bad all the time. Maybe, they just loved me in their own unique way. But really, okay, when you dig in, you start to uncover more of this truth. Maybe at one point you might have thought, oh, I miss them. But you don't miss them. You miss who you thought they were. You miss the person they performed to be during the love bombing phase of the relationship. That person, that version of them doesn't exist. You're grieving a character. Have you heard the quote from William Shakespeare? All the world is merely a stage and all the men merely players. I used to love that quote. And I think it was something that helped me get through my life as a child for quite some time. I was a theater kid, right? And I would hold on to quotes and words that helped me survive the abusive situations that I grew up in, the abusive situations that were later parts of relationships. The most painful fantasy, it's not even like a reunion with this person, it's the apology. The one where, they finally see what they've done wrong, how they finally realize that they hurt you. Maybe they've hurt your kids or they're hurting your kids. They take accountability and they apologize for their actions. Maybe they look you in your eye and say, I hurt you and I'm so sorry. That's not a fantasy about love. For me, it's a fantasy about justice. We're wanting to right this terrible wrong. We're wanting them to apologize because that's what we would do if we hurt another person. There's also like this alternate kind of timeline. If they had just gotten help, if I had just done this differently, if they had chosen me, if they hadn't cheated on me, maybe I could have done something different in my marriage. Maybe if I was like my brothers, I would say to myself, maybe I would have been seen. I lived in that timeline for years. As a little girl, I grew up always wondering if I was good enough. And believe you me, when I thought that I was doing great, I was immediately brought back to my reality that my stepmother and my father were conditioning me to believe. And that was that I was not enough. I was not good enough. I was a bad kid. Yeah. Here's the truth that I've come to learn is that no matter what we were doing, we would never get a different outcome because they were never going to be a different person. That timeline doesn't ever exist, you see. For me, I thought that, okay, well, if I get all of my chores done and I get them done so perfectly and everything's great, like my stepmom is going to be kind to me today. She's going to be so proud of me. She's going to tell daddy, and I'm going to be like, wow, dad's going to like love on me and be so happy that there were no problems today. That never happened. Maybe my dad will stand up for me and say something to my stepmom to defend me, protect me. That also never happened. Maybe if I have dinner made before my ex husband came home and I had the kids all cleaned, all bathed, perfect, like perfect all the time. Their nails were clipped because he would always get on me about their nails being dirty or not clipped, and therefore I was a bad mom. But if I had everything done, the house clean and tidy, maybe, just maybe, I could avoid an argument or a problem, right? I would replay that in my head for quite some time until I radically accepted that there was nothing that I could have done differently, that I was doing everything that I knew to be right at that time. So why is fantasizing about especially an ex-partner, why is that dangerous? If you are still in close contact with an abusive person, someone, that you now have to be forced to co-parent with, fantasy is a continuation of the relationship by another means. So as long as you are fantasizing about, oh, maybe they are really a good parent, maybe I'm the problem, you are emotionally still in it. And that has real world consequences. Like when you're co parenting with a high conflict person, you are operating from a place of hope. If you're fantasizing, you hope that they'll be better. You hope that they'll finally step up as a parent now that that relationship is over, right? You negotiate and bid against yourself. You over explain. You give ground when you shouldn't be doing so. You're responding to messages, texts, justifying yourself, explaining, defending yourself, trying to show that you are a good mom, a good dad, a good child to your parent. Those thoughts and that fantasy that you've had, or those moments that come back to you, has no place for a courtroom, obviously. Your documentation, communication, your strategy that, you learn to implement, it all has to be built off of like the reality. What is happening now? Not what you wish were true. And so many of us, get into this, we get trapped initially when we separate and divorce, thinking, okay, now that we're not in the relationship, they're going to be a good parent to our children. They're going to show up. Has it happened yet? Has it been consistent? So, what has happened is we've given them the benefit of the doubt and we get into places of agreeing to, oh, we can co parent. Oh, the vagueness in that parenting plan, the vagueness in that court order, that's fine. We're going to be able to be like two reasonable adults and have this conversation. No, you're not. It's not going to happen. I know that this is really hard because accepting what is means accepting the loss. It's grief and it's real. And it's part of this process, it's part of our healing. For me, it's recognizing that a few things can be true. My father was not emotionally available for me. My father did not protect me. He also abused me. He allowed abuse to occur from my stepmother and from an additional stepmother that I had because he remarried, and she was also abusive, and she saw me as a threat, right? Because I saw her for who she was, really, truly, and I was a threat. If you see narcissistic, toxic people for who they really are, you are immediately seen as a problem. You have like this target on your back. You become their target of blame. Now, my mother, I have always seen her as my preferred parent, my safer parent, my protective parent. She was the safer parent. Did she protect me from the abuse? No. It's also true that I was moved from halfway across the country, from Colorado to Florida. My mother stayed in Colorado, and I was in Florida with my father and my stepmother, who were very abusive. Now, let's say if the roles were reversed here, and those were my children that were moved to another state, I would have moved. I would have moved to go live closer to them. There would have been nothing in my way. I would have found a way. So, was my mother my safer parent? Yes. But she too also didn't show up for me the way that I deserved. And I have come to accept that reality. I also came to accept that, I went down this rabbit hole for a while thinking I'm going to find out exactly what happened to me in my childhood. I'm going to get a copy of my court file, the custody documents from Colorado. So I went on that journey and I emailed the clerk's office and I requested these documents and I got a response back of, you know, unfortunately, I cannot share them with you. You have to petition to receive a copy from the court. Hello? Like, excuse me, what? Because I was now an adult child of this action. It's obvious it was this way to protect me, maybe to cover corruption. Who knows? I let the email sit for a few days and I'm like, all right, I'm going to get back to it. Got things going on with clients. I'm going to come back to this. Guess what? I never went back to that email. The reason why? Because I have determined and accepted that my truth is enough. My reality is my reality, and nothing can change that, regardless of what I may or may not see in those papers. And is there anything in those documents that can help me? Is there anything in those documents that can help me find closure? Probably not. It's just going to give me a lot of unanswered questions. I really discussed this today with my therapist. It's what inspired this episode, in fact. So I let it go. I've had clients tell me over the years, you know, I really just see my ex as like, he's a good dad. Like, I've seen times where he's just really good. I don't understand what's happening now. What you are seeing now is what has always been. Stop holding on to these good moments. We tend to our brain tends to hold on to the good moments and ignore the bad. That's to protect us. Recognize what's happening. Look, you're not weak for fantasizing. I was not weak for fantasizing that my mom was like my safe parent, my protective parent. She was my safer parent, more protective parent, one could say. You're not broken. I'm not broken. Definitely not broken. I also wasn't broken for thinking that when I ended my marriage, my ex would be the father that my children were deserving of. Things would improve. That didn't happen. You are a person whose nervous system learned to survive something that should never have happened to you in the first place. And now you're here listening and learning and doing the work. And this is so very important. The apology that you may keep replaying in your head, it may not be coming your way. I want you to grieve it and then be free of it. Recognize that you are enough. Recognize that there is nothing that you could have done differently for a better outcome. You cannot control the behaviors of other people. If this episode hit home for you, make sure you share it with someone who needs it. Leave me a review. It genuinely helps me find more people. It helps more people find this show. And if you want to go deeper, you know where to find me. You can find me on all socials as Coach Bridget B. You can check out my website, Breaking Badass Coaching. The link will be in the show notes. And I will see you in the next episode. Until then, keep being your badass self.